Hey, good morning, class. Welcome in. We're going to have our last discussion on the French Revolution slash Napoleon's Empire unit, and this is going to be essentially a look at Napoleon's collapse. And last time we took a look at his ascent to power, somebody who was incredibly successful on the battlefield, gained quick fame, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's starting to really cause havoc throughout Europe. But as we take a look here, it's going to be, again, a situation where he gains that power too fast and just can't control or maintain it. So, without further ado, let's take a look at Napoleon's collapse. So, let's take a look at Napoleon's costly mistakes. Now, Napoleon's own personality proved to be the greatest danger to the future of his empire. His desire for power had raised him to great heights, and the same love for power brought him to doom. It brought him to his demise. Okay, again, Napoleon loved Napoleon, was very egotistical. In November 1806, Napoleon set up a blockade against Great Britain. Remember, French, British forces hated one another. Napoleon hated the Brits. And this blockade against Great Britain basically prevented trade. It was a forcible closing of these ports. Napoleon called this the continental system. He felt that mainland Europe needed to become more self-sufficient. Napoleon also intended to destroy Britain's commercial and industrial economy. The blockade, though, was not tight enough, and smugglers managed to get supplies to the British. The British retaliated with a blockade of their own. Backed by a superior navy, this hurt the French immensely. Indirectly, the blockade also hurt the Americans, one of the reasons for the War of 1812 here in the United States. So, Napoleon's decision-making is starting to unravel. The Peninsular War. Now, in 1808, Napoleon made a second costly mistake. In an effort to get Portugal to accept the continental system, he sent an invasion force through Spain. The Spanish people protested the invasion. In response, Napoleon removed the Spanish king and made his brother Joseph king. The Spanish, who were devout Catholics, also feared that Napoleon would remove the church. In retaliation, bands of Spanish peasants would fight as guerrillas. Okay, guerrilla warfare is not open combat. It is ambushes that are sporadic, quick, and effective. Okay, you're going to attack, you're going to retreat. You're going to hide behind some buildings, you'll attack. It's not like you line up here, you fight. It is a sporadic, unpredictable type of warfare. Guerrillas use their surroundings as an advantage. Okay? The British would also aid the Spanish. In total, Napoleon lost over 300,000 of his men due to the Peninsular War. This weakened his empire. Nationalism was now becoming a powerful weapon against Napoleon. The Italians and Germans would also unite against the French. So again, nationalism is starting to grow. Italians being proud of being Italians, Germans being proud of being Germans, and Napoleon suffers another great defeat in the Peninsular War. Here we go. The invasion of Russia. Now, Napoleon's most disastrous mistake came in 1812. Even though Russia had become an ally, they refused to stop selling grain to the British. The French and Russians also had their own plans on Poland. Because of this breakdown in their alliance, Napoleon decided to invade Russia. In June of 1812, Napoleon and his grand army of over 420,000 troops marched into Russia. Alexander I ordered his Russian people to partake in what we call scorched earth policy. Now, this policy is deliberate. You're in retreat mode. You're burning your crops. You're destroying your livestock. It prevents the enemy from having anything to eat. It prevents the enemy from moving forward and advancing, being able to eat either cows or pigs or have any kind of crops to eat. So you're burning it on purpose, scorched earth policy. Later that year, Alexander I would set Moscow on fire and prevent the French from capturing it. Napoleon will get bogged down in the winter of 1812 to 1813. This is what the Russians wanted, him to get stuck in the snow. His troops would suffer death from their wounds, starvation, exhaustion, frostbite, and desertion. Meaning they would just leave their camps. In total, only 10,000 troops made it back to France. A devastating mistake. Again, 3 rules in life. There's inevitably death, taxes, and you don't invade Russia. Okay? Didn't work out for Napoleon. Now, here's the downfall. Napoleon's enemies took advantage of these 3 costly mistakes. Britain, Russia, Prussia, and Sweden joined forces against him. Austria also decided to declare war on Napoleon. Now, all of the main powers were at war. In a few months, Napoleon was able to muster a new army. All right. However, these troops were ill-equipped to handle the fights. He would lose at Leipzig. All right. Allied forces now pushed toward Paris. Prussia and Russia were able to parade victoriously through the city. Napoleon wanted to fight on. However, his generals refused. In April of 1814, Napoleon gave up his throne and was banished to the island of Elba. In response, King Louis XVIII, the brother of King Louis XVI, took the French throne. So the monarchy got reinstalled. This is the banishment to Elba. You'll see a painting here, a very famous painting. The 100 Days. Okay, so King Louis XVI, King Louis XVI's brother, King Louis XVIII, was almost immediately hated by the people of France due to his unpopularity, as you can imagine. Napoleon saw this as an opportunity to re-seize power. He is banished on Elba, but he knows what's going on. With the help of those on the island, he escaped Elba and returned to Paris. He was welcomed with joyous crowds. Soon, several volunteers enlisted in the army to help Napoleon. The British, led by the Duke of Wellington, prepared for battle near the village of Waterloo. The British resisted early attacks from Napoleon and got help from the Prussians. Their effort forced the French from the battlefield. The defeat ended Napoleon's last bid at power. This became known as the 100 Days. So he's basically back in power for 100 days. Napoleon was then exiled to the tiny island of St. Helena. There, he would stay in exile for 6 years, and he would die in 1821. So he's going to die in exile. There's a picture, famous picture of the painting, the Battle of Waterloo. Now, Congress of Vienna. When Napoleon was out of power for good, Europe had to re-envision itself after the Napoleonic Wars. Wars do three things, right? They kill people, they cost money, they change everything. Well, Napoleon's out of the picture. We're seeing changes across the board. European nations had one goal. They wanted peace, collective security, and stability. The major European powers would meet in Vienna, Austria, to discuss these terms. The Congress of Vienna would meet for 8 months. These new terms were the brainchild of Austrian Minister Clemens von Metternich. First, he wanted to prevent future French aggression by surrounding France with strong countries. Second, he wanted to restore a balance of power so that no country would be a threat to others. Lastly, he wanted to reinstall Europe's royal families to the thrones that they held before Napoleon. So, what were the results out of all of this? Okay. The Congress of Vienna took the following steps to make weak countries around France appear stronger. The former Austrian, Netherlands, and Dutch Republic were united to form the Kingdom of the Netherlands. A group of 39 German states were loosely joined to make the German Confederation. This was dominated by Austria. And then Switzerland was recognized as an independent nation. The Kingdom of Sardinia in Italy was strengthened by the addition of Genoa. So you have some results here. You have some major changes. And, again, hopefully a peace, which we'll talk about moving forward. There's a lasting painting of the Congress of Vienna, all the big wigs in Europe meeting together to decide the fate of Europe after Napoleon's reign of havoc. And that brings us to our closing point. We are all set now with this unit. So, again, take a look at the review, continue working on your projects, and I hope you folks have a great day. All right? Take care, everybody. Have a good one.